The top 15 hedge fund managers raked in $15.8 billion last year, according to this article. So let's get into it. So the list of highest performing hedge fund titans in 2021 is here, and there's more than a few upsets among the 15 managers who raked in a collective $15.8 billion last year. Citadel's Ken Griffin jumped to first place on the list after coming in fifth last year, according to financial data compiled by Bloomberg. He hauled in $2 billion in 2021, up from $1.8 billion in 2020. Thanks to another record year at Citadel, his net worth is now approximately $28 billion. TCI's Chris Hahn, a British billionaire who was knighted in 2014, may have nabbed an even more impressive honorary title in Wall Street circles, second place on the list of high performing hedge fund managers. Hahn has placed big bets on big tech, including Microsoft and Alphabet, and that strategy paid off in 2021. Newcomer to the list, Karthik Sarma of SRS Investment Management cracked the top three slots this year after a bet he placed 11 years ago on rental car company Avis finally paid off. Sarma owns roughly 50% of Avis and made an estimated $2 billion as the stock surged 456% this year. But unlike Griffin, whose collection of homes is estimated at a whopping $1 billion, Sarma's real estate is more modest. He spent the pandemic living with his sister and her family in a middle class suburban home in New Jersey. The residence may prevent him from splurging on a fleet of Ferraris. His sister's home only has a two-car garage. Noticeably absent from this list was Tiger Global Management's Chase Coleman, who held the top spot in 2020. In 2020, Coleman placed big bets on so-called stay-at-home stocks, including Zoom and Peloton, that made huge gains during the pandemic. This year, those stocks were far less lucrative. However, Coleman may be placing bets that could pay off down the line. Tiger has revved up its focus on investing in startups, and it made 335 startup investments last year. Melvin Capital's Gabe Plockton, who came in 15th last year, was nowhere to be seen this year. Plotkin is likely still licking his wounds after the now famous short squeeze on meme stock GameStop crushed his fund in January 2021. Millennium's Izzy Englander, who's a regular on the list, was bumped from third in 2020 to fourth this year, putting him right behind Sarsa. Likewise, Jim Simmons of Renaissance Technology slipped from second in 2020 to fifth this year. Mets owner Steve Cohen of Point72 nabbed the seventh spot for the second year in a row, and other notable names on the list this year were Bridgewater's Ray Dalio, D.E. Shaw's David Shaw, Elliott Management's Paul Singer, and Pershing Square's Bill Ackman. Third Point's Don Loeb, Sinvest Richard Marshall, and Stephen Schoenfeld, who runs an eponymous fund, made their debut on the list. While nearly $16 billion is nothing to sneeze at for a year's work, that number is more than 30% lower year over year. Thanks to the pandemic-induced volatility of 2020, hedge fund managers pulled in $23 billion the year before. The information about billionaires' bets is found in a quarterly filing known as a 13F, in which institutional investment managers with more than $100 million in assets are required to disclose their holdings. So, feel free to give your thoughts if you stumble upon this, but here's the thing that I've never really understood when it came to people putting their money into hedge funds. Why are so many people putting their money into hedge funds when a lot of them actually don't really make a good return. Like, if you were to really look at it, they technically had a 30% loss in terms of like revenue from the previous year, right? But here's the thing, the average person, and not even just the average person, but basically every single person, if you were to just put your money into like an index fund, basically like the S&P 500, and just kept consistently putting money into that every single month for pretty much the rest of your life, you'd probably never have to actually look at it and probably outperform all these hedge funds in the long term, right? Without really ever thinking about it, without really ever caring about it, without probably even ever looking at it, right? And you probably outperform these hedge funds, right? And it was funny. I believe a YouTuber actually proved this point that in terms of like stock picking, you could technically have a monkey pick random stocks from the top 500 stocks and probably outperform hedge fund managers. Which, by the way, I believe a YouTuber actually did this, where they actually put like $100,000 into like 10 stocks that a literal monkey, picked these stocks and they outperformed in terms of like percentage wise, outperformed hedge fund managers, right? So it's kind of funny when you really think about it. It's like you really shouldn't be trying to pick individual stocks because you probably don't have the time to do enough research on it. You probably don't have the time to want to even dedicate to it. And let's put it frankly, the majority of people are pretty lazy. So why would you actually want to invest in the energy expenditure to actually try to find the right stock that is just not going to crash your money, right? Instead of just consistently putting that money away into like the S&P 500 and have that thing basically double every like 7 or 10 years, right? Like that is a much more hands-off way that will pretty much double due to compound interest, and you'd basically never have to think about it, like ever. Like you pretty much never have to think about it. And the main thing to really understand is that it doesn't even take that much money, right? So if you end up stumbling upon this episode, you probably have a car payment. So if you have a car payment, if that car payment is about $300 plus in terms of your car payment, and yeah, let's just say the car payment, not even including the insurance, just the car payment. If you did not have that car payment obligation and you put that same amount into the S&P 500 for the next few decades every single month, guess what? You'd probably retire with over $1 million in your investment. And like this is what like really kind of like depresses me about a lot of people in terms of like their investing is that a lot of them do not actually realize the opportunity cost of having debt like a car payment. Like you are basically giving these car companies a massive return that they could then just put into more stuff to make massive amounts of money while your net worth is going backwards, right? Whereas if you were to put that same amount of money that you're giving to these massive corporations into your future, into your own investments, you'll end up actually becoming a millionaire without actually really having to do anything, right? Which is so sad when you think about it, right? Like you could literally become a millionaire from index funds by just consistently putting money every single month. Basically, the same amount that you're putting towards your car payment. Now, obviously, the more money that you could put into it, the faster it's going to be for you to grow your net worth exponentially. But I'm just saying, for the everyday person, the average person of basically any income level, if you basically just put your car payment into an S&P 500 every single month, you will end up going to retirement age with a lot of money. A lot of money. So just keep that in mind. If you want to learn how to get out of debt so that you have more money to actually go towards investments, go to 14bucks.com.